Let's see. All right. We are live. What's up, everybody? Street Parking fam. I'm here with Chelsea,
What's up,
and
guys?
we are going to walk you through vault number 24. This is round 2. We just have one more vault after this, which is crazy to me how quickly it's gone by. But we're doing the team version of Cutthroat Isle, and this one was tough. This one was tough, but we're gonna give you the play-by-play. We're gonna break it down for you guys because we have a lot to say about this one. But it was fun. It was fun, and if you're planning to
It
do it,
was
you're
really
gonna have a
fun.
lot of fun. Absolutely, yeah. All right, so here we go.
So
We are
maybe
going.
we'll
Go for
do.
it, Chelsea.
Well, I'll give you guys just. Everyone probably knows what the workout is, but I'll give you a little breakdown. So we're starting this off together. DH and I are doing a 200-meter single dumbbell overhead walking lunge. So I'm using a dumbbell here. I think I have 35 pounds. DH, you were using a plate. It's got 45. So this is 200 meters. We're working together to accumulate that, so only one person is working at a time. If you guys are taking this to the street, your partner could just walk alongside you, right? Where we kind of had the space to sort of break it up. And I have to apologize to DH because I think maybe why this workout took us so long is because I did the rough estimate of the distance, and I was doing the foot method, which is basically like where you just walk and kind of estimate what a foot is. And I was trying to accumulate, I think, what is it, like 656 feet for 200 meters. And I might have like overestimated a little bit. But it's done now.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. So basically what we were doing here is like we would go, one person would go down 25 feet and the other person would come back. And we would just alternate that way until we accumulated our total distance. And I think it took us, I don't know, close to 8 minutes.
That's what I think I remember seeing. And I'm like doing the math as we're going through this, and I'm like, whoa, it's gonna be 16 minutes of just doing lunges.
It was a lot of lunges. I feel really bad because that might have, I don't think I overestimated it like that much, but it definitely might have been just a little bit more than it needed to be. But it's done now. No point in focusing on that.
No problem.
Yeah, and we decided to alternate with like smaller, shorter distances because I felt like that was a suggestion I had before we started the workout, was that it would keep us moving faster, right? Sometimes, especially with the overhead lunge, if we bite off more than we can chew too early and we're trying to hold weight overhead, we really start to slow down. So that's the cool thing about team workouts is that, and something you should be thinking about is like, hey, I want to keep my reps fast. So how can I keep my reps fast, especially when it's like a you go, I go format? So instead of doing these bigger distances where our movements start to slow down and we really just start to fatigue a lot quicker, we chose smaller chunks to chip away at.
I think it worked perfectly because as soon as, I set my plate down, you were already going. By the time I turn around, you're halfway there. And so it kept the pace moving pretty quick. And I think I was averaging like 11 or 12 like lunge steps per trip, or rather one per length. So, which was very digestible. I mean, you could definitely keep yourself moving for that many lunges, even in the overhead position, with that added element to make it challenging, which made it, it was good. It was good.
Yeah, I think I'm a little shorter than you. So I was counting my steps. It was like 12 to 13. So on a good round, I would get 12, but on a not great round, I was doing 13. So, yeah, so it is a walking lunge. We don't really program walking lunges very often. Occasionally, we will throw them into our daily programming, but it's kind of a fun way to change up our lunge because we know a lot of us, including myself included, like I can't really do walking lunges in my workout space. So it's kind of a fun way to change things up. But if you guys don't have the ability to do it walking, it'll say in the coach's notes, but I think it's 200 shared
Yes.
alternating lunges just in place, which
Yes.
really is honestly pretty close to what I was doing total. When I added up my rough estimate of steps, it's pretty close to 200. And it's still the same. You guys just share the reps, you accumulate the 200, you can break them up kind of however you want. But that's a good way
Yeah.
to get after this if you can't take it to the streets. But if you
Right.
have the ability to do walking, it is a kind of a fun way to change up the lunge versus doing it in
Yeah.
place.
It I experienced that doing this because I'm used to just doing reverse step lunges. That's just my preferred way of doing them. But there's like a balance element to it. There's definitely like like I'm sore today in different areas than I normally am when doing high volume lunges, doing a lot of
Yeah.
lunges. So it's good. I liked it.
And for me, I like the walking lunge, especially in the overhead position.
Mm.
I feel that the momentum forward
Mm.
is really nice versus sometimes when you're holding weight overhead and you're trying to stay in place, it's a little bit harder. But yeah, it was just a good kind of change of pace versus doing the lunges in place like we normally would do.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of different ways you guys can do the overhead lunge. So I don't know,
Mhm.
DH, do you want to go over all the different equipment
Yeah.
that people can use for that?
Right. Even before we started the workout, you and I were discussing kind of looking around what we had available. We could use a sandbag if we wanted to use a kettlebell. You know, there are a lot of different things you can implement. The advantage of using a sandbag, if you have the sandbag where you have those horizontal handles, you can have the weight of the sandbag draped behind you. And to your point about finding the momentum, you can always keep the weight kind of right over the top of the center of your center of mass when you're doing the lunge, which is really helpful. So then that way, you're not worried about balancing the weight overhead, but rather just like moving quickly and making sure every step or step of the lunge is like you're getting as far as you can, good quality movement. Um, so yeah, kettlebells if you wanted to, um, sandbag, obviously using a plate like I am, single dumbbell. Yeah.
Yeah, lots of different options for that.
Hmm.
And one thing to note is if you guys do try to use a sandbag, I think that the distance and even the reps are a little bit different for the lunge portion. So make sure you check that out if you decide to use a sandbag. And that's generally speaking, just because we know most of you guys, the sandbag weight you have could be a little bit on the heavier side, but obviously
Hmm.
you can customize and make it work with whatever you have. So if you do have a lighter sandbag, maybe you stick with the reps that are listed. And then I found it, I was using the dumbbell. And honestly, there were a few rounds where that felt a little tricky for me. I had to like let the dumbbell, I kind of cradled it in the palm of my hands.
Hmm.
Um, but sometimes when I would rush getting into that position, I would feel the dumbbell get a little wobbly. So if you do use a dumbbell, make sure you take time to get it really settled into the palm of your hand so it doesn't slip out.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, lots of cool options here. And then for the overhead lunge, this kind of tends to be one of the more challenging movements for people. And to get into good positions,
Hmm.
I think it would be wise that prior to starting the workout, you guys are doing some things to really open up your shoulders. That could be doing some banded lat stretches, maybe opening up your pecs, kind of just really focusing on overhead positioning. I don't know, DH,
Yes.
if you want to speak to that at all.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. I think definitely some thoracic spine rotation type prep work could be really beneficial. Laying on a foam roller, just like right underneath your shoulder blades, and just kind of opening up your T spine. Like Chelsea mentioned, using a band to kind of like banded distraction stuff for your shoulders could be helpful. If you notice, like my arms are
Thank
kind of
goodness.
bent. I don't have that great of shoulder flexion like you do, but if I prep better, maybe it would look a little prettier. So
Uh,
noted for myself personally.
Ed just asked, wait, or he said, wait, you guys warm up? I mean,
You
sometimes, no.
know, sometimes these
Yeah,
lunges were
even
kind of
like
like
just
warming up.
some single arm. And then once you kind of do some of that, maybe doing some
Yeah.
single arm overhead carries, just some stuff to really get your shoulders, because this is definitely one of the more challenging movements to get into.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, very important probably to warm up a little bit for this one. We kind of
Yeah.
did treat the lunges as like the main as part of our warm up. But actually DH and I both warmed up quite a bit yesterday, I think. Okay, so we're moving on now. We're doing the 40 synchro burpees. These are made synchro when both of our chests hit the bottom. So I kind of told DH, like, I'm going to pace off of you. I just wanted him to move at a pace he was comfortable with and not worry
Mm-hmm.
about me. So I told him that mainly because I'm like, I don't want you to worry about me. I want you to do you, and I'll replicate what you can do. And so that can vary, in team workouts. Sometimes both of you are at a similar level and maybe you can really push each other. Or maybe someone is going to be a little bit quicker at burpees. That person should be really just following the pace of the person who could be a little bit slower at burpees.
Yeah.
And I feel like that worked pretty well for us.
Yeah, I think so. I think that was a great strategy. I just told myself, like, just get 10 done each time. Like, there's no real reason to stop more than that.
Yeah,
But yeah, I could have communicated that a little sooner, because in my head
that's all
I was
right.
like, okay, I need to take a break at 10.
Yeah, which was smart, honestly, because for DH, I think too is like sometimes, especially earlier in a workout, we bite off a little more than we can chew. But it was like
Right.
just setting those small goals of like, hey, I'm going to do 10, then I'm going to take a little break, and then I'm going to do another 10, and just kind of keep moving forward that way.
Right.
So
Reagan, DH choosing violence with the legs between the bar for the burpees. Yeah, that was a bad spot to position the dumbbells, because in my head I'm like, this is driving me crazy. Like, am I gonna kick the upright or? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And but sometimes you gotta risk it for the biscuit, as they say,
That's right.
Reagan. So that's kind of what's happening here.
He wasn't going to change him at that point.
No way. All right.
And I think, okay, so then once we got to the burpees, I feel like we were doing a pretty good job of it was about 10 reps every day.
Yes. Yes.
So I would say for those of you who are deciding to get after this workout, don't let the burpees take you longer than 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And if they happen to, I would maybe just move on at a certain point, just because this workout does have some potential to be on the longer side. And there's a lot of work to get done. So I would say 5 minutes max for the burpees. And then while they are facing burpees and they are, barbell or dumbbell synchro facing burpees, you guys can always customize to a simpler burpee if you find that might help you. So you could just do a traditional burpee. It doesn't have to be over something. So that's another way that you guys can do these.
Yeah.
3, 2,
It definitely helped to have you kind of be the orchestrator of our performance, because you being way fitter, being able to make those calls helped me stay like accountable too, where it's like, and that's really the beauty of these team workouts, is especially if you have the opportunity to partner with somebody that for whatever reason can move faster or has more capacity. You get to kind of experience, like, okay, this is how I can push, this is how I can push myself to move faster and go a little harder. So it's always good.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so now we're moving on to our 20 rounds. This is a you go, I go format. So I'll do a round, DH does a round, and we just do that until we get 10 rounds each. So it starts off 8 power cleans, and then 6 shoulder to overhead or push jerks. And I decided to go unbroken. And you'll see, I think you started your first round unbroken.
Yeah, and so I'm using 50s right now. And I'm going like dumbbells, like front head dumbbells between the feet, kind of technique or whatever. And then, as I'm doing this first set with the 50s and I'm doing the push presses, I'm like, I need to switch the weight out, because if I want to hold a pace that's going to be helpful to our time, and chipping away through these 20 rounds as quickly as possible, I was like, okay, I'm going to go down to 40. So you can feel free to make those customizations in real time. Just be realistic with what you're able to do. Yeah.
For sure. And so I did go unbroken for all of the rounds, but DH, I don't know when you started breaking up. Maybe it was here. I'm not sure, but DH did break it up. And I think that's actually really smart, especially in the team workouts, is sort of just finding, you know, what works for you best and not focusing on your partner, because he easily could have sort of been a little bit misled by me and tried also to push to go unbroken. But really, he did a great job kind of staying in his own lane. And then, you know, my thought process behind it was like, I'm going to try to go unbroken. And I didn't want to push DH, you know, too far, but that's where I sort of myself and keep us on track, as long as I could trust him to stay in his own lane, which I felt like I could. So I continued to just go unbroken on all of the rounds. So I don't know if you felt that, DH, but
yeah. I mean, I knew you were like in your zone, so I was like, she's just gonna do her, and this is just the way that I can contribute to our team. You know, it's like, I'm gonna break at 7, take a couple deep breaths, and then pick it up for one more to finish out that 8th power clean, and then go right into 6 push press. And yeah, that worked out well for me. That helped me stay like accountable. And
yeah, I felt like it was the perfect pace for you, honestly.
Yeah,
it worked out great. And I don't think it's bad if you guys wanted to break these up at all. Like, it could be really tempting to go unbroken, but I think it's actually really smart to break it up, especially there's a lot of work to do after this. So keeping that in mind, you still have to do another 40 burpees and the lunge.
That's right.
And DH did 7 cleans, and then he would do his 8th clean, and so then he'd break. And then on his 8th clean, he'd go straight into that shoulder overhead, which I highly recommend doing. That way you just don't waste any work or effort, rather. It just makes it a little bit smoother. Yeah. Another thing too is I had a little mini whiteboard I highly suggest for this workout, because it's just a lot of rounds and a lot of stuff to keep track of. So I had a little mini whiteboard. I had kept track of our lunges with it, however many lengths we had to do. And then I also kept track of this middle part in all of the rounds. And I just made tally marks prior to starting. And then I would just swipe one off every time we get a round done. So whatever works for you guys, but in some way sort of just like keeping track of that. Because as most of us know, once you're in the middle of the workout and you're trying to remember what round is this, it's terrible. So it just takes one less thing to have to think about.
Right.
When you're tired.
Right. Yeah. You don't want to have to use unnecessary like brain power to keep track of everything. If you can get your team organized like the way Chelsea did, you know, it worked out, I think, great. I know myself, and like I'll fully lose count and be like, I have no idea what round I'm on, and then I'll end up doing 2 extra rounds when it's all said and done. So yeah.
So for this one, you guys can still, other equipment versions, you can use your sandbag for this. You can, obviously I'm doing the barbell DHs. I think I went 75 on the barbell for me. And then DH, you were starting with 50s, but you already went over that. You dropped down to 40s. You guys can use the sandbag. Not much would change with the sandbag. I think you would keep it the same. It is a little harder to do a push jerk with a sandbag, so you might, just for, you know, stability overhead, you can always just do a push press. Same for dumbbells, I feel. Dumbbells are a little harder to do the push jerk, so if you don't feel as stable in that position, you can always just go for a push press. And then
absolutely.
Even further, you can just do a good old traditional strict press. I wouldn't advise it, but you could if you felt comfortable doing that. Yeah. And then I would say, I don't know, DH, we talked about this a little bit before we started, but I feel like me going unbroken was like about 25 to 30 seconds. And then how long do you think it was taking you to get around it?
It was taking me about 45 seconds.
Okay. So we're looking at like 90 seconds around. Yeah?
Yeah. Right.
And I would say this part of the workout should be, once you guys get here, it should be pretty smooth. Like you're transitioning pretty quickly between each other. Obviously you can still break it up, but those rests should be relatively short. and the weight you choose should allow you to take those short rests and then get right back to work. So make sure you're thinking about that before you're starting. Is like the weight should be fairly light for you. Would you agree,
Yes.
DH, on that?
Yeah. Yeah. It should be where you can just pick it up and go. Where the fatigue or how tired you're getting isn't so loud, where you can't just like approach whatever object you choose and just kind of like get your hands on it and just like take a breath and like, okay, let's go. Let's stick to the plan.
Yeah.
Let's just keep moving. Yeah.
And I know towards the end here, DH and I both were kind of like encouraging each other. I mean, I was still like hurting pretty bad in this workout. I know DH makes it seem like I wasn't, but
I could not I could not tell. I was like, dude, what is going on? She is just like so consistent and just wow. I mean, like
earlier
the top
this
on
week,
the power clean, the jerks. Great.
We had done a ton of not testing, but like doing workouts for you guys in 2025, which we're really excited about.
Oh,
so my body this morning was just so sore and tired, and that was a lot of like maybe why I was hurting, but
yeah,
I was just like, oh my god.
Yeah. It's been a busy week for sure. So going into this too, I was like, okay, all right, let's do this.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't even know what round we're on here.
I think this is like 7 or 8. Yeah.
Oh jeez. Yeah, and DH chose to do the cleans between his legs. That's a little like, it's definitely a little more efficient. It's gonna feel more like a kettlebell swing, from the ground at least, versus like with a barbell, which can be honestly kind of helpful for efficiency purposes, but you guys can kind of do whichever variation feels better for you. So you can always take those dumbbells to the outsides of your feet and pull from that position. Just make sure that as you're doing the cleans, you're always keeping your back flat, pulling from the floor. We still want to maintain good positions.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I just kind of noticing where I'm sore, like my low back. I definitely should have been bringing my hips down a little lower. As you guys can see, I'm a little like slacking on keeping my back straight and flat. So I'm definitely sore there. But yeah, just try to be mindful of that. Like sit into it a little bit more, get the power from your legs as opposed to just kind of, cranking from your back. And then on the push press, a lot of power from the legs. It's only 6 reps. Just hang on and just get that jump out of your legs. To help with
that's a really good
shoulder
point,
overhead.
because that was actually what I was trying. For me, the limiting factor, and probably for most people in the middle part of this workout, is going to be the shoulder to overhead. So when you're choosing your weight, kind of thinking about that. But similar to DH, I was really focusing on a lot from my legs and a quick punch underneath for every rep, and that kept moving like pretty quickly.
Yep. Totally.
But yeah, this has to be, I think, actually close to our last round. I want to say we moved on from this around 24 minutes, but I'm not sure. I'm not going to lie, during the workout, I was looking at the clock and I was like, I don't even remember what the goal time was, but I hope we are not like surpassing this by like 30 minutes. This is not going to be good. But it was fine.
It's tough. But yep, that's the last one.
Was that the last one? Oh yeah, it was. Oh yeah. Now we're moving on to burpees. So here we go.
Yeah, these burpees were very uncomfortable. My heart rate is very high right now. But I knew I could do 10. Like no matter how tired I am or how uncomfortable these were, it was very blurry, but I was like, I can get 10 done. I can get 10.
Yeah, and I think that's honestly really important for a lot of people, is like when you're looking at burpees, especially big chunks of them. I said it earlier, but it's just setting small goals for yourself and chipping away at that. And really, when you're doing it, just focusing on that number, like, hey, I'm just going to get to 10, because it can be really overwhelming and kind of daunting to think about doing 40, especially after all the work you've done. And so just kind of stay in the moment and focus on those 10. Another thing too, since DH was the last to finish the 20 rounds, I let him decide when it was time to go. So I just said, DH, you let me know when you're ready and we'll start. So that could be like really helpful, kind of actually over the course of the entire workout, depending on how you and your partner are working in and out with each other, is just whoever finishes the work, sort of let the other person decide when they're ready. And just, that's kind of part of the team workouts, right? Is like staying together, paying attention to your partner, paying attention to how they're reacting to different things and how they're feeling. So, and it requires another element of, I don't know, paying attention and being aware in the workout. You can't just zone out yourself.
Yeah.
Now we're at 20 here.
Right. Halfway through these burpees.
One thing with the synchro burpee is it's synchro at the bottom. So we already went over that. But sometimes you might find that you have to have a little pause at the bottom before jumping over. So you'll notice on some of my reps, I synced up pretty well with DH, but I'll pause down there for a little bit and kind of wait for him and then jump. And that's normal. And that could change too by, you know, maybe you're working with someone who's really tall and someone who's really short. And so the time frame to get down and off the floor just changes a little bit. So don't be surprised if you feel like you have to change the rhythm of your burpee from what you might normally do.
Yeah. And for me, I'm trying to think, I don't want Chelsea compressed down there at the bottom of her burpee because she's got to get some, you know, she's got to be able to recover a little bit as she moves too. So I'm like, all right, get down there, get her up off the floor. Let's keep these burpees moving.
Yeah, and honestly, guys, like I don't work out with DH a lot, so I didn't really know exactly. I wanted to push him, but I also didn't want to take him too far too soon, especially. But I was, at this point in the workout, I was definitely looking at the clock, and as soon as we finish a set of burpees, I would, you know, I'd be like, okay, it's 15 seconds or 20 seconds or whatever, and I would be kind of like, okay, 5 seconds, we're gonna go again, and then I would give him a little countdown so he knew, and he stayed with it. He did great. He probably didn't want to go, but.
But that's kind of it.
That can be helpful.
Again, right?
I mean, honestly, I've been on the other side of that because sometimes like you feel like, gosh, I don't know. And then that other person is there just kind of giving you that little nudge, like, hey, you can do it. We're going to go in 15 seconds.
That's right. Yeah. And what's cool is like, if you experience that enough times, when you're doing a workout by yourself, you build that confidence and self-belief. Like, hey, I know I'm tired, but that one time I did that workout with Chelsea, like I was able to push 10 burpees a minute. Like, come on, we can do that. You know, it's like, having that learned confidence is really important for longevity, consistency, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So back to the lunges. I'm not going to lie. When I did my first set here, I was like, oh my God, this feels really hard. I know it doesn't maybe look like it, but it honestly was. And my legs were burning. My shoulders were especially burning for that overhead position. And I think, so at this point in the workout, DH.
Sorry, Chels. Now that you're telling me that, I'm like.
He wasn't quite ready to go again. And this is honestly the great thing about team workouts is like, you can lean on each other. I mean, sometimes it will be written in a way that it's like, hey, you actually both have to do X amount of work. And sometimes it's written in a way that you guys can share the load. And that's the great thing about the team workouts is because then you can play to one another's strengths. And DH just needed a little bit more time to recover. So I gave it to him and I did another one.
Yeah. And this is when I take advantage of like the pause in the middle of the lunge. That first set, I was just trying to like lunge through it. But you know, I needed that extra second just to like get balanced so that I'm not tipping all over the place. And it worked out good. Yeah.
And another thing too on the lunges, actually, while I was doing this, I was thinking about all of you guys and like, man, this is really hard. And I know there's a lot of all of you that can do it. We all can do the hard things, right? But if you get to this point in the workout, don't be afraid to scale it back a little bit and customize where you need. So some of the things I thought of is just you bring that weight to the front rack position and just do the lunge from there. If you're totally smoked, you can also go and just do an unweighted lunge. Like you don't even have to do it weighted if you're totally smoked. Those are just some ways that you guys can easily customize in the workout just to stay moving a little bit quicker. And some things that I thought of for the lunge too is like, you notice DH and I are both kind of pausing. So see how he brings his foot to the center. That can be a good way to sort of, I don't know, keep a good steady rhythm during the lunge.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I was kind of going back and forth between that and stepping through. So here I'm kind of, see how I'm barely touching in the middle and kind of already going into my next step. So it's definitely a little bit faster. But doing the pause can also be a good rhythm to sort of help control your speed there.
That's right.
If you need it. And then I jumped in and did another length. And I think from what we did from here on out was pretty much like DH would do one and then I would do one down the back.
Mm-hmm.
And that seemed to work pretty well for us. But yeah, this was definitely the harder part of the workout.
Yeah, this back half was very tough. It was very tough. It just watching it, it feels like it's going by fast, but it felt like it would never end.
Yeah, I know. It honestly did. It felt like it was never going to end. It was so rough. Yes, there's only one vault left.
That's
Crazy.
it.
Really
That's
fast.
it.
Next week's is going to be a good one. And then we start a whole new round for 2025.
Crazy.
Yeah, I would say so. When you guys are measuring this out, so maybe you have to do it in place. I already went over that. It's 200 alternating.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I personally, the 200 meters, I always find it a little easier to just figure out the feet of that and then measure out my feet. So I think it was, you know, for easy math purposes, easy. It was like 656 feet. So the way I measured this was like 25 feet. So every length was 25 feet. But you can also do what works for you. And maybe that's taking it to the sidewalk, the street, or doing it in place. And if you have knee sleeves, you should wear them. DH, are you wearing knee sleeves? You're not even wearing them.
No, I'm not. I should have brought mine. I should have brought mine.
Do you not normally wear knee sleeves?
I do, like when I'm squatting, but for lunges, I didn't think about it. Yeah. I was like, oh yeah, we're doing a lot of lunges.
A lot of lunges. Well, I did this when I did it the first round. I did it with Alex and Miranda, and I forgot my knee sleeves, but Alex brought 2 pairs, so I borrowed one of hers.
Nice.
It's kind of gross, but whatever.
Nice. Yeah, 2025 vault is gonna be a wild ride, for sure.
Mm-hmm. When do we find out the theme? I don't know.
Stay tuned. Soon.
Stay tuned. Coming soon. I will say though, the workouts for 2025 vault are honestly like there's some really good ones in there.
It was really fun doing some of them this week. Really fun. Classic street parking, and just really, really effective. They get the job done for sure.
I'm not sure where we're at in our lunges, but we're definitely close to finishing. We're
getting there, yeah.
So I would say if you guys are getting after this one, you know, the lunges should probably take you like around 6 to 8 minutes. And then, you know, just looking at everything as a whole, about 6 to 8 minutes on both the front and the back side. It might take you a little longer on the back side. And then the synchro bar facing burpees, roughly, you know, 4 to 5 minutes. And then for the 20 rounds, I would say honestly, like 10 minutes. And that will get you guys inside of the goal time frame for the workout. And DH and I were on the higher end of the goal. Yeah. I'm pretty sure we still made it.
Chris dropped a clue for you guys. It's going to have you breathing fire for sure.
I was kind of a mess after this workout yesterday. Chris was making fun of me because I went to see him because he had the kids, and I picked up the kids, and I still had my knee sleeves on, and honestly, I felt like all I needed was food.
Yeah.
So make sure you guys have some fuel right after this workout because it's going to take it from you.
My appetite was very high yesterday.
Some quick carbs, protein
Yep.
shake. It could
Boom.
be really helpful. Because I'm not going to lie, I
Have
did
it.
feel a little depleted later in the day. I probably didn't eat enough, but.
We're getting there, guys. We are very, very close to being done. So now, Chelsea, you're stepping through. So she's like, let's get this thing over with.
Yeah. And for the lunge, guys, like we always want to try to reach full range of motion, which is, as you're descending in the lunge, you want to tap that back knee to the ground just really gently. It should just be a gentle tap. We definitely don't want to be like banging our knee. That's not going to be good. So just a really gentle tap and then coming up. And then when you guys come out of the lunge, you still want to make sure you reach, full hip extension before you go into the next rep. Sometimes with the locking or the walking lunge, it's really easy to keep our hips closed and we don't fully extend. And then even if you're doing those in place, that's still going to be what we want to see happen. So reaching full range of motion at the bottom and then standing fully at the top. And that can sometimes be hard to do, but you should still be fighting for those positions and using weights that allow you to get into those positions.
Right.
And I was even trying to like lengthen my lunge because we were going for distance. So if I was just doing it in place, I wouldn't really care too much about that. But I was really wanting to open up. So I'd reach really far with my front leg, which is actually probably why I'm like more sore today. But that can be helpful when you guys are going for distance, is just to reach out a little bit further in front of you than you might normally.
Yeah, like the front of my hip is pretty sore. So that extra length, walking forward, it just feels different.
We have to be getting close. Almost 38 minutes on the clock.
Whoa. That one I got a little tipsy on that one. Yeah, I'm just really focusing on driving out of that front foot. Like you said, making sure I get full hip extension, because that's actually going to give me the space to bring that other foot forward. You don't want to get like your back foot caught behind you. So getting full range absolutely it's more efficient. So use those like mechanical advantages for the lunge.
Yeah. Yep. And then I was always focusing on actively pressing through my shoulders. I mean, ideally we're able to extend or just do the best we can, getting our biceps to our ears and extending our arms fully. Which can be harder to do, especially on this second half after all of the lunges that you already did and the push jerks and even the burpees a little bit. You're going to fatigue your triceps. But still like fighting for that position. One thing I thought of too as a way to customize if you need and you still want to do the overhead position, you can, and you're using a dumbbell, you can just go down to doing, a single arm dumbbell, which, can be a little bit easier sometimes in fighting for those positions versus holding two arms overhead. So that's something else that you guys could play around with if you feel better doing that. One more. Okay, so DH has to go down, and I have to go down. And then we'll be done.
I'm just like, all right, this is it. Let's just bring it home now.
Yeah, that's right. Last length.
Let's go.
I might have, DH and I kind of got a little out of like sync from what we did on the first round. And because I was a little out of it, there was a moment where I was like, I don't know if I checked off on my thing, on my whiteboard. So I definitely could have not counted correctly, but all done.
All right, guys, the lunges are
super hard. I almost think maybe GH and I overestimated the distance a little bit, but that's for another day. It was really hard. Play to one another's strengths on those, especially on the back end. So if you have a partner who's a little bit better at lunging, let them take that lead. And then further than that, if you need to customize from the overhead position, do it. You can do something in the front rack, and you can also just do a simple walking lunge. So don't be afraid to play around with it and make it work for you.
Obviously, you guys can see, I mean, Chelsea's a phenomenal athlete, so she carried our team, and it helps to have, if possible, if you can partner up, team up with somebody that has maybe a different ability, like Chelsea was mentioning. Maybe they played a certain strengths in this workout. For me, I was able to communicate that. I knew where I needed a little bit of support and help, and she has the capacity to do that, just so that we weren't just unnecessarily taking super long rests. It's a long workout, so endurance is the name of the game, and you can't let your ego get in the way, because as a team, you have a different goal than a personal one. So communicate well, lean on your partner when you need support, and just keep yourself moving.